Milo and the Impossible Tree. Chapter 1: The Seed That Wouldn't Grow. Milo was a boy with big dreams and a tiny plant pot. He lived in a village where every child was given one seed on their 8th birthday. Some seeds grew into lemon trees, others into sunflowers, and some even into giant vines you could climb like ladders. But Milo's seed did nothing. He watered it, he talked to it, he even sang to it, though his dog Pickle howled in protest every time. Still, nothing happened. Days turned to weeks and weeks to months. Every morning, Milo ran to the windowsill to check his pot. But there was only soil, quiet, still, and very disappointing. "It's just a bad seed," said the baker's daughter. "Maybe he planted it upside down," laughed one of the twins at school. Even Pickle seemed to give up and started ignoring the pot entirely. But Milo didn't. He believed, deep down, that something was special about his seed. He couldn't explain why, but he just knew it was not ordinary. One chilly autumn afternoon, as the wind danced with fallen leaves, Milo sat by the windowsill with the pot in his lap. "I don't care how long it takes," he whispered. "I'm not giving up on you." And that's when it happened. The pot shivered. Milo blinked. "Did you just—" The soil moved. Just a little. A tiny ripple, like something underneath had stretched. Then crack, a tiny silver sprout poked its way up through the dirt, but it did not look like any sprout Milo had ever seen. It sparkled. Literally. Like moonlight trapped in a plant. Milo gasped so loudly, Pickle came running into the room, tripping over a chair leg. The sprout glowed brighter, and as Milo watched, a small leaf unfolded, perfect and shining, like it was made of stars. Milo didn't know it yet, but he had just planted the only impossible tree the world had ever seen. And his adventure was just beginning. Chapter 2: The Sprout That Glowed in the Dark. That night, Milo could not sleep. He kept turning on his bedside lamp every 5 minutes just to check if the silver sprout was still there. It was, and it was glowing. Not like a nightlight, not like a candle, but like a piece of moonlight had decided to grow roots and live in a flower pot. Milo pulled the blanket over his head and whispered to the sprout through the warm darkness, "I knew you were special." The sprout didn't answer, of course, but it did shine just a little brighter, as if to say, "Thank you for not giving up on me." By morning, news had spread. "Did you hear about Milo's plant?" the grocer whispered to a customer. "The one that glows?" asked the barber, leaning out his shop door. By lunchtime, people were peeking through the windows of Milo's house. Some even brought cameras. Is it real? Is it safe? Is he using some sort of science? Milo's mother gently shooed them away, but not before one man tried to offer her 20 gold coins for the pot. "My son has a birthday coming up," he said with a greasy smile. "No, thank you," she replied, shutting the door firmly. That afternoon, the mayor came. He stood in Milo's living room with his fancy red hat and important-looking clipboard. "Son," he said, clearing his throat, "we've never seen anything like this. We believe your plant could be a national marvel. A tourist attraction. We'd like to move it to the town hall, where people can admire it properly." Milo frowned. "It doesn't belong in a glass case. It belongs in this pot, with me." The mayor chuckled politely. "Of course, we'll revisit the matter." After he left, Milo sat beside the pot and whispered, "Don't worry, I won't let them take you." That night, something changed. The sprout grew. Not just a little, a lot. By morning, it had outgrown the pot entirely. Silver roots spilled over the edge. The stem now reached Milo's chest, and its glowing leaves shimmered in the morning light. Milo rushed to the backyard and dug a hole with his hands. He gently placed the sprout into the earth. As soon as the roots touched the ground, the entire backyard lit up like a field of stars. Pickle barked, wagging his tail, running circles around the impossible tree, like he had just discovered treasure. Milo stared in awe. "You're going to be big, aren't you?" The wind picked up as if the tree answered yes. And then Milo heard something new, a soft hum, low and musical, coming from the trunk. He leaned in, and to his amazement, he heard words, faint and far away like a song from another world. The seed was only the beginning. Milo blinked. "Did you just talk?" The tree glowed again. Milo's jaw dropped. Something magical was waking up, and he was at the very center of it. Chapter 3: The Tree That Whispered Secrets. Milo sat cross-legged in front of the glowing silver tree, his eyes wide, his heart thudding like a drum in his chest. He leaned in closer. "Say it again," he whispered. But the impossible tree stayed silent, its leaves gently swaying in a breeze that did not seem to touch anything else. Pickle trotted over and plopped down beside him, resting his chin on Milo's knee. Even the little dog seemed to sense that something unusual, extra unusual, was happening. Then, just as Milo started to doubt what he had heard, the tree shimmered. A light pulse, slow and soft, moved from its roots to its tallest branch like a sigh. And again that strange musical voice returned, gentle, low, and full of wonder. To grow what is impossible, one must believe when others do not. Milo shivered. He looked around. But no one else was in the backyard. No speakers, no tricks. Just him, Pickle, and a glowing silver tree that had started talking. "Am I dreaming?" he whispered. The tree pulsed again. This time the glow traveled up into the air. Milo watched in amazement as glowing particles lifted into the sky like fireflies, forming shapes, images. A lion made of starlight leapt across the wind. A castle floated upside down above a mountain. A boy on a silver boat sailed across a sea of clouds. Then, poof, the shapes vanished. Milo blinked. "Are you showing me dreams?" The tree hummed again, but instead of words, it dropped something. A single leaf. Milo caught it before it touched the ground. It shimmered in his hands, and as he looked closer, he saw something unbelievable. There was a map on the leaf. Tiny, silver lines formed trails, mountains, and strange symbols. At the center of the map was a glowing mark shaped exactly like his tree. "Is this where you came from?" The tree sparkled in reply. Milo's mind raced. What if the tree wasn't just magic, but from somewhere else? Another place, another world, a hidden land that no one else believed existed. He looked up at the impossible branches and whispered, "Do you want me to go there?" No answer, but the map leaf in his hand glowed warmer. Milo stood up, heart pounding. "Then I will." The door behind him creaked open. "Milo, dinner's ready," his mom called. "I'll be right in." He tucked the glowing leaf into his jacket pocket and turned back to the tree. "Tomorrow," he said, "I'm going to follow the map, wherever it leads." Pickle barked, tail wagging wildly. Milo smiled. "You're coming too?" He glanced at the impossible tree once more. Its leaves glittered as if smiling back, and from somewhere deep in its glowing branches, a single word echoed softly in the wind. "Begin." Chapter 4: The Gate Beneath the Roots. The next morning, Milo woke before the sun. His backpack was already packed. Flashlight, compass, notebook, snacks, extra socks, and the glowing map leaf tucked safely in a jar. Pickle was waiting at the door with his little harness on, tail wagging like a flag. Outside, the impossible tree stood tall, glowing gently in the early light. Milo stepped into the backyard and whispered, "I'm ready." The tree responded. Its leaves rustled like applause, and suddenly the ground beneath it began to shift. The silver roots pulled back, curling away from the center of the trunk. The grass split in a perfect circle, and then, click, a round stone door appeared in the soil. A secret gate. Pickle barked in surprise. Milo's eyes widened. "There's a door under the tree?" He knelt beside it and traced the edge with his fingers. In the center of the stone was the same symbol from the map, a star cradled in a leaf. Without thinking, Milo pressed the leaf map against the symbol. It lit up. The gate opened, sliding back silently to reveal a staircase that spiraled downward, lit by floating blue lights that bobbed in midair like sleepy fireflies. Pickle whined nervously but followed Milo without hesitation. They walked carefully, step by step, as the world above faded and the air turned cool and sweet-smelling like peppermint and pine trees. At the bottom of the staircase, they reached a glowing cavern. Silver crystals lined the walls, casting shimmering patterns on the floor. In the center of the cavern was a small pond, except this pond did not reflect the ceiling. It reflected the sky. Not the sky outside Milo's backyard, but a different one. One filled with two moons, floating jellyfish, and stars that moved like schools of fish. Milo knelt beside the pond and gasped. The map leaf in his pocket tugged gently toward the water. "Do we jump in?" he asked aloud. The pond sparkled. A single word appeared on its surface, glowing like moonlight. "Trust." Milo looked at Pickle. Pickle barked once and sat wagging. Milo took a deep breath. "Okay, here goes." He stepped forward and fell, but not down. He fell through the pond like stepping into a mirror, and the moment he passed through, everything around him changed. He landed gently on soft grass that shimmered under his feet. The sky above him was lavender with golden clouds. Giant floating trees drifted like balloons overhead. Birds with glass wings flew in lazy circles. Pickle dropped in beside him, shaking off stardust like water. Milo spun in a circle, eyes wide. Where are we? He reached into his pocket. The map leaf was glowing brighter now, with a new trail blinking at the edge. The tree had not just given him a map, it had given him a mission, a place to go, a mystery to solve, and a journey that would change him forever. Milo looked down at Pickle. We're not in the backyard anymore. Pickle barked twice and ran ahead, and so Milo followed into the land beneath the impossible tree. Chapter 5: The Creatures Who Remember. The sky in this new world never stayed still. One moment, it glowed pink with floating lanterns that seemed to drift on their own. The next, it shimmered green and gold like spilled paint. Milo could not stop staring upward, but Pickle had other plans. The little dog tugged at Milo's pant leg, barking excitedly at something in the distance. A forest. But not like any forest Milo had ever seen. The trees were upside down, roots in the air, branches buried in the ground. Their bark glowed softly, and their leaves whispered secrets that made the hair on Milo's arms stand up. I guess that's where the map wants us to go, Milo said, checking the glowing leaf in his jar. Sure enough, the silver trail pulsed toward the trees. They stepped into the forest, and instantly the sounds of the world changed. No birds, no wind, just memories. At first, Milo thought he was imagining it, but then he heard something impossible. A soft voice that sounded like his own, younger, crying softly. I'm trying, but nothing's growing. Milo froze. That's me, he whispered, from the day I almost gave up. The trees were playing his memories. One tree whispered back with his mother's voice, You're not failing, Milo. You're learning. Another one carried the sound of laughter. His and Pickle's from a day they got caught in the rain and danced in puddles until their shoes were soaked. They remember, he murmured. These trees remember. Suddenly, a rustle up ahead. Milo stepped forward, gently parting some glowing leaves, and came face to face with the most unusual creatures he had ever seen. They were short and round, with bark for skin and fireflies glowing inside their bellies like lanterns. Their eyes were large and kind, and each one carried a small satchel filled with sparkling seeds. One stepped forward, holding out a hand. We are the Rememberers, it said. We tend the forest of forgotten hopes. Milo blinked. You what? When someone gives up on a dream, the creature said, it falls here, and we plant it, hoping one day someone will come to find it again. Milo felt something warm in his chest. That's amazing. The Rememberer nodded. You're the first in many, many years to arrive with a living map. That means the impossible tree has chosen you. Milo reached into his pocket and held up the glowing leaf. Then what do I do now? He asked. The creature turned and pointed deeper into the forest, toward a hill glowing with stardust. You climb. At the top is the echoing grove, the place where you must face the dream you almost left behind. Milo felt a chill. He glanced at Pickle, who gave a determined bark. Okay, he whispered. Let's finish what we started. The Rememberers stepped aside, creating a path of soft moss and floating lights. As Milo walked forward, the trees around him began to hum, not just with memories, but with encouragement. You're closer than you think, one whispered. You are growing, even when you cannot see it, another sang. And with every step, Milo's heart grew steadier, stronger. He was beginning to understand. The journey was not just about reaching a magical place. It was about discovering what had always been inside him. Chapter 6: The Dream Milo Left Behind. The path to the top of the hill was steep and winding, lit by lantern flowers that bloomed only when Milo stepped near. Their soft golden light wrapped around him like a warm memory. Pickle walked beside him quietly for once, as if he too sensed that something important was about to happen. When they reached the top, the sky shifted. The stars paused. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. At the center of the hill stood a tree unlike any other. It was smaller than the impossible tree back home, but its branches shimmered like silver glass. Instead of leaves, it held glowing orbs, each one pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Milo stepped closer. One of the orbs floated down to meet him. It hovered right in front of his face. Inside the orb, he saw a version of himself, frustrated, frowning, nearly in tears, throwing his tiny flower pot into the corner of the yard. That's the day I almost gave up, Milo whispered. The orb pulsed. Then the image inside changed. He saw himself again, But this time he was older, walking away from the impossible tree, shaking his head, leaving it behind. No, Milo said, his voice cracking. That never happened. The orb pulsed a second time. It didn't, but it almost did. The voice came not from the tree, but from within the orb. It was his voice, yet deeper, wiser, from a version of himself that had once considered quitting. This is the dream you nearly abandoned, the voice said. This is the moment you must choose. Choose what? Milo asked. To protect what is growing in you, the voice replied. To carry it back. To believe in it, even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. The tree's branches quivered gently, and a second orb floated down. Inside it, Milo saw a garden, a future. His impossible tree was now massive, with dozens of children playing beneath it, reading books, planting seeds, laughing. It's beautiful, he whispered. That is the dream, if you keep believing. Milo's hands trembled as he reached for the orb. It dissolved in his fingers like morning mist, leaving behind a glowing seed. A seed just like the one he had been given on his birthday. Only now it sparkled like a star. Pickle barked gently. Milo looked down. I think this is the seed of my next dream. He tucked it safely into his backpack. As the sky shimmered above them, the map leaf in his pocket blinked slowly, its final trail glowing bright. Milo turned to face the path home. I'm ready. The rememberers waited at the bottom of the hill. When Milo descended, they bowed, not with sadness, but with joy. You remembered what mattered, one said. Now you must return and let it grow. As Milo stepped back through the glowing forest, the map pulsed once more. And from deep within the impossible tree's roots, the way home opened wide. He had entered this world with questions. He was leaving with purpose. And in his heart, he carried not just one dream, but many more to come. Chapter 7. The Tree That Changed Everything. Milo stepped through the glowing gate beneath the impossible tree and into his backyard once more. Everything looked the same. His house, the garden fence, the tiny swing where Pickle liked to nap. But he was different. He stood taller. Not in height, but in heart. The impossible tree greeted him with a soft shimmer, its silver leaves humming a quiet welcome. Pickle spun in circles before running to his water bowl like nothing magical had just happened. Milo smiled. We made it back. He pulled the glowing seed from his backpack, the one given to him at the top of the hill in the echoing grove. It still pulsed with promise. This one's not just from the village, he whispered. This one's from me. Without a moment's hesitation, he dug a spot beside the impossible tree and planted the new seed. The soil sparkled as it touched the ground. Milo pressed his palm gently over it and closed his eyes. I believe in you, he said softly. That night, the stars above Milo's house seemed to shine a little brighter. In the morning, something amazing had happened. A second sprout had grown beside the impossible tree, but this one was golden. It hummed with joy. It reached toward the sky, and it whispered a new song into the wind. By the end of the week, neighbors came by not just to see Milo's tree, but to ask how it had grown. He told them everything, not about magic or glowing maps, but about patience, kindness, believing when nothing seems to be happening. Kids across the village started treating their own seeds differently, with care, with hope. They stopped racing each other to see whose plant would grow the tallest. Instead, they encouraged one another, because now they knew some of the most powerful things grow quietly. Some dreams take time, and sometimes the most impossible tree begins with a simple promise: I will not give up. The end.